Hi, this is Fredulin. Today I'll be demonstrating the ACS camera station node and show little things that you can do with this. So the node itself is a wrapper around the ACS camera station API. So what you see here is I have a camera station, and that is the one we'll be using today in this demonstration. And the first thing you have to do is install the node itself. You go to Manage Palette and install, and you can search for ACS ACS. And as you see, I've already installed it. So now we can go up here and find the ACS camera station. But for this demonstration, I'll use the examples that is included in the flow. So you go up here and this one and import, and in examples, and you find here. So there are two examples. I'll take the actions, import, and there we go. So these are all the actions that we'll go through. So the first thing you have to do is setting up a ACS server. So you go in here and edit, and the address to mine is on this IP address, and this is the default port. The user is admin, and my password is yeah, I can just call it ACS. So here you find all the actions that I'm going to go through. And the first thing, now deploy, and clicking on this inject into this debug, and I get some information that this is the server name, this is the version of ACS, and my time zone, and the hardware and vendor. The next is the inventory, listing all the devices. So here you get an array, and you get its unique internal ID, the name, the address, the port it's using, the model, firmware, serial number, and the number of disconnects, since can't remember what that documentation says. I can start a recording, and in order for that to work, I need to provide the ID. So let's go back up here and doing inventory, and I'll just use that one. So I can copy this, which I think it's already done in the demonstration, which is one of my cameras, and it should be the same ID down there. And can reset that, and now I can start recording, and I can stop recording. This one has the same ID, so it's been using that before. So that's included in the example, but you need to replace that with a unique ID from your ACS. We can list all the recordings, and we need to go in here and edit, and here same thing, the camera ID. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the date, and I'm setting the hours and minutes to seconds, meaning since midnight. So the payload into list recordings is the camera ID, and from, you can optionally do a 2 if you want to have between two time frames, well, in between time frames. And we can just go list recording. It's only going to find one recording, because the API works that way, that I have one continuous recording, and even if I do event recording on top of that, I'm only going to get the continuous recording. If the ACS was based on just event recordings, you would get all the events listed in an array here. we can add bookmark, and this is how you do it. You provide the camera ID, you have a name and some text. If you don't provide a time, the ACS is going to add that time using now. But if you want to go back and using a specific, you can change the time. But we will add a timestamp or a bookmark right where we are. And we can just do that. And we should have a bookmark. We can go in here and look at the recordings and bookmarks. Let's see, no, not add bookmark. Yeah, as you see, this is I've been testing. So this was today. If you configure a trigger in ACS, you can, if I have not defined that one, but if I define a trigger in ACS in order to trigger some kind of an action, I will put that name there and just inject, setting a trigger. But I'm getting an exception here. So you see this debug output is from a catch node. So I got a 400 back from ACS API exception, and the body was trigger name not found. So if it was trigger high, I can then, sorry, that should be trigger low. Made a mistake because the state is false. Trigger low. But I'm getting it the same thing, the trigger name is not found. Or if I want to trigger for a duration, I put the trigger name and the duration, and that trigger will go high for 10 seconds and then go low again. But same thing here. Can also export the recording. So this is how the payload looks like. So I have my camera ID. So what I'm setting here is I'm getting a timestamp from now minus 5,000 milliseconds, minus 5 seconds to now, and no audio. And I'm getting a buffer. So this is the MP4 buffer. It was about one megabyte of data. So this can be used to play video or export video. There is another example in here that we can import. Examples, going to ACS and a dashboard playback. I'll zoom out a little bit. So this gets a little bit more complex. So now you need the dashboard nodes. So I'll show you in just a second. So what I'm doing here is when I'm pressing play, I'm defining a serial number, and this is a serial number inside my ACS, and you need to change that to a serial number of the cameras in your ACS. I'm getting the time from 10 seconds back and doing a duration of 6 seconds. So this generates an HTML5 video block, video with a width and source to an HTTP endpoint, which is on the node red, with the camera serial number, the time, and duration. So this is going to inject into a dashboard. That's going to be a dashboard template that is going to be adding that video part into between these divs. So this is going to be making a request back to this endpoint, playback. Process input and just checking some of the data coming into this GET request. I'm making a lookup on the serial number into the inventory in order to find the camera ID, and setting the camera ID and setting the camera ID, the from and to, and audio. Making an export to MP4 and adding some headers that the content type is video MP4, the content length, and reply that back to the dashboard. So if we go to now the UI and we press play, and there is my video from 10 seconds back, and I'm getting 6 seconds. And I can use these controls and play it again. And these can be used for many use cases where you want to be displaying video using the camera station as your recording engine, but you need a simplified dashboard for auditing video or targeting other users than those who use the camera station client. And I hope that that this is easy enough for you to play around with and build some use cases around. Thank you very much.